My name is Owen. I'm a 32-year-old financial analyst at a Wall Street investment firm in New York. In the eyes of outsiders, my life is perfect. My career is booming. I have a beautiful and intelligent wife, Doris, and I live in a high-class apartment in Manhattan. However, life has a way of playing jokes on people, and I am the biggest joke of them all. It was a normal Wednesday morning. I was working in the kitchen as usual, preparing breakfast for myself and Doris. The aroma of omelets filled the kitchen, and the coffee maker hummed softly. It's a habit we've developed since we got married. I make breakfast and Doris does the rest of the housework. To be honest, I enjoy the quiet time. It makes me feel like a good husband. "Good morning, dear." Doris' voice came from behind me, and I turned to see her standing in the kitchen doorway, a faint smile on her lips. She was wearing a beige silk robe, her long chestnut hair draped casually over her shoulders, her whole body looking lazy and elegant. "Good morning, baby." I walked over to her and kissed her on the forehead. "Did you sleep well?" Doris nodded and reached for the coffee cup I handed her. Her fingertips brushed against the back of my hand, and the familiar touch warmed my heart. After 2 years of marriage, these small gestures between us still made me feel happy and satisfied. We sat at the table, enjoying a rare moment of peace and quiet, Doris sipping her coffee while I wolfed down the food on my plate. The pressure of work was mounting, and I had to get to the office as soon as possible. "I might have to work late tonight." I slurred as I chewed the last bite of my toast. "You're not waiting for me to eat dinner." Doris' expression flickered with disappointment, but quickly regained its composure. "Okay, I get it," she said softly, her eyes fluttering a bit. I stood up, quickly straightened my tie and suit, and Doris came over and smoothed out the creases in my suit. Her fingers brushed against my chest, and the tenderness of her touch made me want to hold her in my arms. "Take care," Doris said, handing me my briefcase. I nodded, gave her a peck on the lips, and hurried out the door. While riding in the elevator, I thought back to the scene just now and suddenly felt a wave of guilt in my heart. Recently, I've been too busy at work, and our time together has been getting shorter and shorter. I swore in my heart that I would make it up to Doris when this project was over. Stepping out of my apartment building, the early fall sunlight of New York gently poured on my face. I took a deep breath and smelled the scent of flowers in the air. This city is always like this, giving you a touch of comfort when you least expect it. I looked at my watch and walked faster to the subway station. Little did I know that life was about to play a big joke on me. The seemingly perfect marriage between Doris and I was a shaky castle in the sky. The subway was packed like a can of sardines as I struggled to keep my balance in a crowd of commuters in suits. The morning rush hour in New York is always like this, crowded, noisy, and stressful. But today it feels extraordinarily difficult, probably because I'm clogged with a cloud of unspoken emotions. When I got to the office, I didn't even have a chance to take a sip of coffee before I was called into the conference room by my boss, Mike. "Owen, did you read the report that was sent to you last night? I need you to give me a detailed analysis within an hour." Mike's tone carried an unquestionable command. "Yes, right away." I forced myself to be calm, but the drums were already beating in my heart. That report was at least 100 pages long, and an hour just wasn't enough. Returning to my seat, I immediately got to work. The numbers on the monitor kept flashing, and the red drops stung my eyes. With the recent market turmoil, several large clients managed by our company had suffered heavy losses, and everyone was enveloped in an atmosphere of impending ruin. "Hey, Owen, I hear the Andersons are pulling out?" Tom from the next cubicle poked his head out and whispered. I rubbed my temples. "Don't rumor blindly. Focus on your work." Although I said this on my lips, I knew in my heart that if this was true, our company would be in big trouble. The morning flew by in various meetings and phone calls. At noon, I finally had time to catch my breath and took out my cell phone to try to send a message to Doris. The screen showed an unread text message from Doris. "Honey, I'm going to a fashion reception tonight and will probably be home late. Don't wait for me for dinner. Love you." I stared at that message for a long time, an indescribable feeling of loss flooding over me. This had been happening more and more lately. Either I was working late or Doris had a social engagement. We both always seemed to miss each other. I was about to reply when Mike came back. "Owen, The Andersons are coming this afternoon. Make sure you have the report ready. It's a matter of life and death for our company. You understand, right? I swallowed hard and nodded. Lunch was out of the question. So I opened the drawer and pulled out the leftover energy bar from the other day and swallowed it in a few gulps. The afternoon session was unusually difficult. The Anderson family's youngest son, a young man with a bushy beard, surveyed our analysis with contempt. That's it? That's all the advice? Did our family's money come from the wind? His words poked at me like knives. After the meeting, I slumped in my chair, feeling physically and mentally exhausted. Outside the window, the Manhattan skyline loomed in the twilight. I glanced at my watch. It was almost 9 p.m. Doris should have been out the door for the reception long ago. I thought to myself. As I was packing up my things and getting ready to go home, my cell phone rang again. It was a message from Doris. The reception is over. I'm going to a small gathering with some friends at a nearby bar. You get an early night and don't stay up waiting for me. I stared at the screen of my cell phone and felt a sudden wave of powerlessness. There was a time when we would have waited for each other and shared each other's day. Now it was like two strangers, each living in their own world. The subway had thinned out considerably, so I found a seat and closed my eyes. The images of the day kept replaying in my mind. The flashing stock market data, the contemptuous look in the eyes of that young man from the Anderson family, Doris's text message. I felt like I was trapped in a maze with no exit in sight. When I got home, the house was dark. I turned on the lights and was comforted by the familiar furnishings in the living room. I walked into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator, which still contained the pasta Doris had made last night. I warmed up the leftovers and sat down at the table alone to eat. The food tasted good, but for some reason, I couldn't feel an ounce of pleasure. I looked across at the empty seats and suddenly realized that I couldn't remember the last time I'd had dinner with Doris. After dinner, I took a shower and lay down on the bed. The bed was so big, and the side with Doris missing seemed extraordinarily empty. I picked up my cell phone, hesitated, but sent Doris a message, "Have fun and be safe." After sending the message, I set my phone aside and closed my eyes. Tomorrow was a new day, and I needed to get my strength back. But for some reason, I always felt empty inside, as if something was slipping away and there was nothing I could do about it. On Saturday morning, I was awakened by the vibration of my cell phone. In a daze, I reached for my phone on the nightstand, but instead felt a smooth object. It was Doris' cell phone. She must have been so tired last night that she forgot to set her alarm. I was about to put my phone back, just then the screen lit up. A new message popped up, and the sender's name sobered me instantly. Jake. Last night was fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you next time. My heartbeat suddenly quickened. Jake? Who was this? Doris had never mentioned this man. My finger hangs over the top of the screen, debating whether or not to tap it to see more. But eventually, I put the phone back down. No, I couldn't. I trust Doris too much to peek into her privacy. However, the content of that message was like a stone that fell into my calm heart and sent ripples through the layers. In the days that followed, I began to pay involuntary attention to Doris' every move. I noticed that she often smiled at her cell phone and sometimes laughed out softly. When I asked her what she was smiling about, she always said it was just a funny picture from a friend. I came home from work one night to find Doris carefully applying her makeup in the mirror. Going out? I asked casually. Oh yeah. Doris turned and smiled at me. There's a reception at the magazine and I have to show up. I noticed that she was wearing a newly purchased dress, one of those sexy but classy styles. Her hair was also newly styled, and she looked even more radiant than usual. Do you need a ride? I asked. No, I called a cab, Doris said, grabbing her bag and getting ready to head out the door. Just as she passed me, an unfamiliar scent of perfume wafted into my nose. It wasn't Doris' usual scent. I opened my mouth to ask if she'd gotten a new perfume, but ended up saying nothing. After Doris left the house, I sat on the couch with my mind in a whirl. It's normal, I told myself. Doris needs to socialize for work and needs to look good. But why did I always feel like something was wrong? A few days later, I attended a fashion dinner organized by Doris magazine. To be honest, I don't really like this kind of occasion, but Doris insisted that I come, saying that she wanted to introduce me to a few important people. At the dinner, I stood in the corner with my champagne glass like an outsider, while Doris made her way through the crowd with a charming smile on her face, exchanging pleasantries with various people from time to time. Suddenly, I noticed a tall, handsome man approach Doris. They embraced warmly and began to talk. Doris's eyes lit up, and a look of pleasure on her face that I hadn't seen in a long time. "That's Jake Stevens, the new designer." A voice suddenly sounded beside me, startling me. It was Tom, a colleague from my company. I didn't expect him to be here. "Jake?" I repeated the name, suddenly remembering the text message on Doris' phone. "Yeah, a hot designer these days. I heard your wife's magazine is working on a big project with him," Tom said, taking another sip of champagne. My eyes returned to Doris and Jake once again. They were standing close to each other, and from time to time Jake would look down and whisper something in Doris's ear, making her giggle. The image stung my eyes. On the way home, the mood in the car was a little somber. Doris seemed to be basking in the aftermath of the dinner, while I replayed the scene I had just seen over and over again in my mind. "Jake Stevens seems like a nice guy," I said tentatively. "Him? Oh yeah." Doris seemed a little surprised that I would bring up Jake. "He's really talented, and our magazine is doing well with him." "You guys look familiar," I continued. Doris turned her head to look at me. "It's just a working relationship. What, are you jealous?" she joked. I forced a smile and didn't say anything else. But an uneasy feeling took root in my heart. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep for a long time. Doris's even breathing sound in the darkness seems particularly clear, but I feel that the distance between us has never been so far. Doubt is like a seed. Once planted, it grows. I began to recall all of Doris's recent abnormal behavior. Frequent overtime work, mysterious phone calls, suddenly canceled appointments. All these bits and pieces slowly pieced together into a disturbing picture in my mind. I knew I couldn't go on like this. I needed to know the truth, no matter how excruciating that truth would be. I never thought I'd walk into a private investigator's office. The place was more ordinary than I expected, like any normal office, except the light was a little dim. There were a few certificates hanging on the wall and papers piled up on the desk. I sat uneasily in a chair that creaked a little, my heart beating so fast it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. "Mr. Owen, here are the results of our investigation." The detective hands me a craft envelope, his face devoid of expression. I guess he's used to delivering this kind of information that could ruin someone's life. My hand shook a little, and it took me a while to open the envelope. Inside was a stack of photos and a detailed report. I took a deep breath and started flipping through it. The first photo hit me like a punch to the stomach. Doris and Jake are having dinner at a fancy restaurant, their hands interlocked under the table. In the next one, they're walking in Central Park, Jake's hand on Doris' waist. And then the next one, I couldn't bear to look any further. "Based on our observations, your wife and this Mr. Stevens saw each other at least 3 to 4 times a week. Their relationship seems to go beyond that of an ordinary coworker." The detective's voice sounded distant. I nodded stiffly, feeling the whole world spinning. I wanted to be angry, to yell, but all I felt was a deep sense of powerlessness and sadness. "Thanks." I say those 2 words with difficulty and leave the office with the damn envelope. The sunlight outside stung my eyes. I walked aimlessly down the street, my mind constantly replaying the pictures. Our first date, the joy on her face when I asked her to marry me, our wedding, all those wonderful memories were now so ironic. Without realizing it, I walked to Central Park. The park was golden in the fall, and the fallen leaves rustled under my feet. I found a bench and sat down, took out my cell phone and ghost-dialed Doris' number. "Hi, honey, what's up?" Doris' voice came from the other end of the line, sounding normal, even with a hint of pleasure. "Nothing, just wanted to hear your voice." I tried to control my emotions. "Where are you?" "Oh, I'm at the office. I have a deadline to meet today, so I might have to work late," she said. I close my eyes and feel my heart being ripped out. Another lie. As deduced from the detective's report, she should be with Jake at this very moment. "Okay, then, take care of yourself." I hung up after that, not daring to say another word for fear I'd break down. I sat in the park for a long time until it got dark. Finally, I decided to go home. Maybe, maybe there was something else going on that I didn't know about? Maybe there was a rational explanation for everything? I didn't want to believe that Doris would betray me, even though all the evidence was right in front of me. When I got home, the house was dark. I turn on the light and find Doris's coat hanging on the hanger. She's already back. I take a deep breath and walk to the bedroom. Doris was on the phone, and when she saw me come back, she said a quick, "Talk to you later," and hung up quickly. "Who's calling?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Oh, it's just work." Doris avoids my gaze and hurries into the bathroom. I stood still and felt a wave of vertigo. Another lie. I didn't know what to say, what to do. All I knew was that our marriage, our life, everything would never be the same again. That night, I lay in bed, listening to Doris even breathing, but feeling more alone than ever. I thought of the girl who had loved and been loved by me so much and wondered where she was now. And this woman lying next to me, I no longer recognized. Tomorrow, I'm going to face it all. But for tonight, let me dwell on this broken dream one last time. I didn't get much sleep the entire night. Doris slept peacefully beside me while I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. I got up and out of bed at the crack of dawn and walked gingerly to the living room. I sat on the couch, clutching the envelope with the photo in my hand. I knew that it was time. Any more of this and I might go crazy. It was almost 9 o'clock when Doris got up. Weekend mornings, we always used to stay in bed. She came out of her bedroom and seemed a little surprised to see me sitting in the living room. "Morning," she yawned. "You're up early." I didn't answer. I just stared at her. She was wearing the same pajamas we bought on our honeymoon. Her hair was a little messy, and she looked so familiar and so strange. "What's wrong?" She sensed something was wrong with the atmosphere. "Owen, are you okay?" I took a deep breath. "Doris, we need to talk." She froze for a moment, then slowly walked over and sat on the couch across from me. "Great. What do you want to talk about?" I pushed the envelope in front of her. "Open it." Doris gave me a puzzled look, then opened the envelope. Her face instantly turned pale when she saw the photo inside. What is this?" Her voice was shaking. "Tell me." I tried to keep my emotions in check. "Who are the people in these pictures? What are you doing?" Doris' eyes began to redden. "Owen, I can explain." "Explain what?" I suddenly raised my voice. "Explain how you betrayed our marriage. Explain how you lied to me over and over again. It's not what you think." Doris said hastily, "Jake and I, we just what?" I interrupted her. "Just a regular coworker? Just good friends?" "Doris, don't take me for a fool. I've seen enough." Doris stood up suddenly and started pacing back and forth. "Okay, yes, there is something going on between Jake and me. But it's not all my fault. Owen, do you know how long it's been since we've had a good conversation lately? Do you know how lonely I've been?" Her words stung me like a knife. "So it's my fault? Because I'm busy at work, it's okay for you to cheat on me?" "I didn't cheat," Doris shouted, tears starting to fall down her face. We just kissed a couple times, that's all. I swear." I sneered. "Oh, so I should feel grateful? That my wife just kissed another man and didn't take it any further?" Doris dropped onto the couch and buried her face in her hands. "I'm sorry, Owen. I really am. I don't know how things turned out this way. You're the one I love." I felt a wave of exhaustion hit me. I loved Doris, and that had never changed. But at the moment, watching her cry, I felt no pity. "Love?" I said bitterly. "If that's your love, then I'd rather you hate me." I stood up and walked toward the door. Doris looked up and asked in alarm, "Where are you going?" "I need some time. Alone," I said, grabbing my jacket. "Owen, please, don't go. We can talk. We can fix this." Doris cried. I glanced back at her and saw a strange and familiar woman. There had been so many good memories between us, but at the moment, they had all turned into sharp shards that stabbed me raw. "I don't know what else to fix, Doris," I said softly before opening the door and walking out. The cold autumn wind blew in my face, and I realized that I had forgotten to wear a scarf. But at the moment, I couldn't feel any cold. I was numb inside. I walked aimlessly down the street, replaying the conversation I had just had in my head. Doris's tears, her explanations, her pleas. Everything was so real and so unreal. I don't know what to do next. Can our marriage continue? Can I still trust Doris? Can I still forgive her? These questions swirl around in my head, but I can't find the answers. All I know is that from this day forward, nothing will ever be the same. That rift between Doris and I may never be healed. I drove aimlessly with no destination in mind. I didn't have much with me when I left the house, just my wallet and cell phone. Doris called me a couple of times, and I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to hear what she had to say. Before I knew it, I was driving out of the New York City area. The trees on both sides of the highway were starting to get thick with extra fall colors. I remembered that Doris had said she wanted to go with me to see the fall foliage in New England. Now that I think about it, I wonder if I'll ever get the chance. After driving for about 3 hours, I arrived in a small town in New Hampshire. There was a lake here in Doris, and I had come to spend the weekend about 5 years ago. I found a motel on the lake and stayed there. The owner, a kindly old lady, saw that I had come alone and asked if I was in some kind of trouble. I forced a smile and said I was just here for a break. The room was small, but clean. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling in disbelief. The phone rang again. This time it was my mom. I hesitated, but answered it. "Owen, are you okay?" Doris called me and said you guys had a fight. Mom's voice was full of worry. "I'm fine, Mom." I said, "I just need to be alone." "Son, married life isn't always smooth sailing. If there are any problems, you have to communicate." "Mom," I interrupted, "this is different. Doris, she betrayed me." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment. Then I heard my mom sigh. "Oh, Owen." We talked for a while longer, and Mom didn't blame Doris or try to persuade me to forgive her. She just listened to me and gave occasional advice. When I hung up the phone, I felt a little better inside. In the evening, I sat on a bench by the lake and watched the sun slowly sink into the water. I took off my wedding ring and played with it in my hand. 5 years ago, I put this ring on Doris's hand and made a vow to love each other forever. Now, was that vow no longer valid? I pulled out my phone and looked through the pictures of Doris and I together. From the shy smiles when we first met, to the happy glow of our marriage, to the recent, detached. I realized then that the problems between us might have been there for a long time, but I'd just been too busy to notice. Doris's last text was 2 hours ago. "Owen, I know you probably don't want to talk to me right now, but please believe that the only person I love is you. Can we just sit down and talk?" I stared at the message for a long time, not knowing how to respond. I love Doris, that never changed. But what about trust? Once lost, can it be rebuilt? It was late at night, and I went back to my hotel room. Lying on the bed, I started thinking about Doris again. What is she doing now? Is she tossing and turning like me? Or is she with Jake? The thought made my heart ache. I grabbed the notebook on my nightstand and started writing down my thoughts. Maybe this would help me clear my mind. First of all, do I still love Doris? Yes, even though she hurt me, I can't deny my feelings for her. And secondly, can I forgive her? That's a tough one. The hurt of betrayal doesn't heal overnight. And then, if we get back together, can I still trust her? Would I be suspicious every time she came home late? Every time she answered the phone? Finally, am I ready to start over if I get divorced? As I write this, I stop my pen. Divorce. The word suddenly became so real. Had we really come this far? Outside the window, the stars are reflected on the lake. I think of our honeymoon, when we lay on the beach counting the stars and making wishes. Back then, we could never have imagined that we would be here today. I turned off the light and tried to fall asleep. Tomorrow, I had a decision to make. Whether to go back and face Doris or end it all. Either way, I know that from now on, none of my life will ever be the same. Just as I was about to fall asleep, my cell phone suddenly vibrated. I picked it up and saw that it was a message from Anna. "I heard you're having trouble. Do you need to talk?" Anna is my best friend from high school and now works as a lawyer in this town. I hesitated and replied, "Thanks for asking. Maybe some other time." Putting my phone down, I was yet more awake. Maybe talking to an old friend would give me some new ideas? But all of that is for tomorrow. For now, I just want to escape all my worries for a while and get some sleep in this strange town on this quiet night. I woke up in the morning feeling like I had a headache. I hadn't slept well last night. My dreams were full of Doris and Jake. I glanced at my cell phone, a dozen missed calls, most of them from Doris and a few from work. I sighed and decided to go around town for a while and not think about all these annoying things for a while. On the main street of the town, the autumn sunlight gently poured over the golden fallen leaves. I casually walked into a cafe and ordered an Americano. "Owen, it's really you." A familiar voice came from behind me. I turned to see that it was Anna. Her blonde hair glistened in the sunlight, and the freckles on her face made her look as young as ever. "Anna," I was a little surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I live here," she said with a smile. "It's you? What brings you to this town all of a sudden?" I hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Anna seemed to sense my discomfort and gently tapped my shoulder. "Hey, want to take a walk to the lake together? It's a beautiful view there." I nodded and followed Anna out of the cafe. The view of the lake was truly beautiful, with blue skies and autumn colors. We found a bench and sat down, Anna waiting quietly for me to speak. "Doris and we're having some problems," I finally said. Anna didn't press the issue, but just gave a soft signaling me to continue. With that, I told Anna everything that had happened recently. It felt strange to say it out loud, both painful and relieving. Anna listened attentively, nodding her head now and then. "Owen, I'm sorry you're going through this," Anna said. "But you know what? Sometimes a crisis is a turnaround. Maybe this is a chance for you to re-examine your life, your feelings." I laughed bitterly. "Revisited? Anna, I don't even know how to face Doris." "Then don't rush to confront it," Anna said. "Give yourself some time and space. You're already here. Why don't you just relax?" Anna's words struck a chord in me. Maybe she was right. I did need some time. "Hey, want to go to the bar for a drink tonight?" Anna suddenly suggested. "Think of it as an old-school reunion." I hesitated, but agreed. In the evening, we met at the only bar in town. Anna wore a simple black dress and looked even more glamorous than she had during the day. After a few glasses of wine, I felt much more relaxed. We chatted about funny stories from high school and about our respective jobs. Anna is now a lawyer, specializing in divorce cases. "Honestly, Owen," Anna puts down her glass and looks at me seriously. "There have been a lot of cases I've worked on that have been worse than yours. But there are also people who eventually make up. The key is whether or not you're willing to work on the relationship one more time." I was silent. Anna's words put me in deep thought. Was I really ready to forgive Doris? Or was our relationship worth trying again? Without realizing it, the bar was almost gone. Anna looked at her watch. "Wow, it's already so late. Let me take you back to the hotel." Walking down the moonlit path, Anna suddenly took my hand. I froze for a moment, but didn't break away. Her hand was warm and reminded me of that summer in high school when we almost became lovers. "Owen," Anna stopped and turned to face me. "I know you're confused and in pain right now, but I want you to know that I will support you in whatever decision you make." I looked into Anna's eyes and had a sudden urge to kiss her, but in the end, I just hugged her gently. "Thank you, Anna," I said. Back at the hotel, I lay on my bed, my mind a jumbled mess. Doris's face, Anna's smile, alternated. I picked up my cell phone and hesitated for a long time before I finally sent Doris a message. "I need some more time." Putting down my cell phone, I looked out the window at the moonlight. I knew that I was standing at a crossroads in my life. No matter what choice I make, it will completely change my future. But right now, in this quiet town, in Anna's warm smile, I feel as if I have found a glimmer of hope and strength. Tomorrow, maybe I'll have the courage to make a decision. But tonight, I just want to get a good night's sleep and dream without Doris, without Jake, and without Anna. In the morning, I woke up to my cell phone ringing. It was Doris. I stared at the screen for a few moments before finally picking it up. "Owen," said Doris, her voice sounding tired. "Are you okay?" "Well, it was okay," I said, not knowing what to say. "Owen, can we talk?" Doris's voice was tinged with sobs. "There's something I have to tell you in person." I was silent for a while. Last night's conversation with Anna and the past few days of reflection have made me realize that I need to face this issue instead of running away from it all the time. Well, I said, I'm going back to New York today. I hung up the phone and started packing. Anna sent me a text asking if I wanted to meet for breakfast. I replied that I was going back to New York and thanked her for the last few days. Take care on the road, Anna replied. And remember, no matter what happens, you are responsible for your own happiness. On the drive back to New York, I had mixed feelings that were hard to describe. I didn't know what awaited me. Would it be a breakup or a complete breakup? Doris said she had something she wanted to tell me in person. What could it be? It was late afternoon when I finally arrived home. I stood in the doorway, took a deep breath, and inserted the key. The house was quiet. Doris was sitting on the couch in the living room, looking haggard. When she saw me come in, she jerked to her feet, but didn't dare approach. "Owen, you're back?" she whispered. I nodded and set my bags aside. "You said you had something to tell me?" Doris bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. "Owen, I'm pregnant." The words were like a bolt from the blue, and I felt my entire body freeze. "What?" I couldn't believe my ears. "I'm 3 months pregnant," Doris said, tears finally falling. "I was going to surprise you, but everything's screwed up." My mind went blank. Pregnant? 3 months? But Doris and Jake? Whose baby is it? I heard myself ask, my voice cold and frightening. Doris snapped her head up, shock and hurt in her eyes. "Of course it's yours. Owen, I know I made a mistake, but nothing ever happened between Jake and me. I don't know who or what to believe." Doris cried harder as she dropped to the couch and covered her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry, Owen. I know I hurt you and betrayed your trust, but I swear, I never. The only person I love is you." I stood there, feeling like the whole world was spinning. Doris was pregnant, and she said the baby was mine. But the pictures, the lies. "I need some proof," I finally said. "We'll have to get a paternity test when the baby is born. So I guess I'll walk you through a labor and delivery tomorrow first." Doris looked up and nodded. "I understand. We'll go to the hospital tomorrow, okay?" I nodded stiffly. Neither of us slept well that night. Doris spent the night in the guest room while I tossed and turned in the master bedroom. The next morning, we went to the hospital. After doing the tests, the doctor told us we needed to wait a few days for the results. There was silence in the car on the way home. Suddenly, Doris spoke up. "Owen, whatever the outcome, I want you to know that I've been thinking a lot about this time. I realized how stupid and selfish I was. I almost destroyed our marriage just because of a moment of weakness and vanity. I'm truly sorry." I didn't say anything, just stared at the road ahead. But Doris' words did touch me. Maybe we're still saved? However, just as we were about to arrive home, Doris' cell phone rang. She looked at it, and her face suddenly turned pale. "What's wrong?" I asked. "No, nothing," Doris stammered. "Just work stuff." But I noticed her hands were shaking. A sense of foreboding surged through me. "Show me," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Doris hesitates, then hands me her cell phone. It was a text message from Jake. "Honey, I heard your husband is back. Are you okay? Do you need me to do anything? Don't forget, no matter what happens, I'll be here for you." I felt like the whole world had collapsed. All the hopes, all the expectations, all of them were dashed at this moment. "Owen, I can explain," Doris said eagerly. "But I can't listen anymore." I pull over, take a deep breath, and turn to Doris. "Get off." "What?" I said, "Get off." I repeated, my voice too cold to be my own. Doris got out of the car in tears. I started the car and drove off without looking back, leaving Doris standing in the street. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to get away from this place of lies and betrayal. My mind echoed Anna's words, "No matter what happens, take responsibility for your own happiness." Yes, maybe it's time to take responsibility for your own happiness, even if it means ending the marriage for good. I don't know how long I drove until the gas tank warning light came on, and I realized I was far away from the New York City area. I stopped at a gas station and mechanically filled my car with gas, my mind reeling. Doris is pregnant. This should have been news to celebrate, but now it was the last straw that broke my back. I pulled out my cell phone and ghost dialed Anna's number. "Owen," came Anna's voice with a hint of surprise. "Is everything okay?" "Anna." I heard my voice shaking. "Doris is pregnant." There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Anna whispered, "Oh, Owen, are you okay?" I laughed bitterly. "Good? I feel like my whole world is falling apart." "Anna, I don't know what to do." "Owen, calm down. Where are you now?" I looked around. "I don't know. Some gas station." I left Doris on the side of the road and drove off. "What?" "Owen, you can't just leave a pregnant woman on the side of the road." Anna's voice was suddenly stern. "Whatever happened? She needs care now. You need to go back." Anna's words jolted me awake. "Yeah, anyway, Doris is pregnant now, and I can't just leave her behind." "You're right," I said. "I have to get back." "Thank you, Anna." After hanging up, I immediately turned around and drove back. On the way, I called Doris, but she didn't answer. A pang of guilt and worry welled up inside me. When we got back to where we left Doris, she wasn't there anymore. I panicked and started looking around the neighborhood streets. Finally, I found her in a coffee shop. Doris sits in the corner with a cup of coffee in both hands, her eyes red and swollen. When she saw me come in, she had a complex expression of surprise, fear, and a glimmer of hope. "I'm sorry," I said softly as I walked up to her. "I shouldn't have left you here alone." Doris shook her head. "I'm the one who should say I'm sorry, Owen." Let's not talk about that," I interrupted her. "Let's go home. You need to rest." Neither of us spoke on the way home. When we entered, Doris went straight to the bathroom. I heard the water in the shower and the faint sound of sobbing. I sat in the living room, trying to clear my head. The whole Doris and Jake thing, the pregnancy thing, and Anna, everything was a mess. By the time Doris got out of the shower, I had already made my decision. "Doris," I said, "we need to talk about what's been happening lately." She nodded and sat on the couch across from me. "First of all," I took a deep breath. "I apologize for leaving you alone on the road. That would have been irresponsible." "It's okay," Doris said softly. "I understand how you were feeling." Secondly, I continued, "about Jake. I need to know the whole truth. Don't hold anything back." Doris had tears in her eyes again. She told me that she did have some feelings for Jake, but nothing happened between them except for a few kisses. She said she was attracted to Jake's talent and charm and lost herself for a moment. "But Owen," Doris choked out, "when I found out I was pregnant, I realized how stupid I was. I almost ruined everything we had, just on a whim. I'm really sorry." As I listened, I had mixed feelings. On the one hand, I was comforted by Doris' honesty. On the other, the pain of betrayal remained. "Doris," I said slowly, "I appreciate your honesty, but I need time. We all need time." Doris nodded, understanding and apology in her eyes. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was from the hospital. "Mr. Owen, your wife's labor and delivery report is out. According to the ultrasound, the fetus is already 16 weeks old. I feel like the blood is clotting." 16 weeks? That's for months? I looked over at Doris, who seemed to notice something and turned pale. "Doris," my voice was calm, but inside I was already making waves. "You said you were 3 months pregnant, right?" The look on Doris' face told me everything. I didn't need to ask any further. I hadn't had time to have sex with Doris 4 months ago because I was working overtime at work. At that moment, I felt like my world had completely collapsed. All the hopes, all the expectations, all came to nothing at that moment. I stood up and looked at Doris, who was sobbing uncontrollably. But this time, I didn't feel an ounce of pity. "I think we both know what to do next," I said, my voice too cold to be my own. "I'll be contacting a lawyer and preparing the divorce papers." Doris tried to say something, but I had already turned toward the bedroom. I needed to pack some things and get out of this place of lies. In this moment, I finally realized that some hurts are irreparable and some betrayals are unforgivable. My marriage is over, but my life goes on. Maybe Anna was right. It was time to take responsibility for my own happiness. The divorce proceedings went much smoother than I expected. Perhaps because Doris was racked with guilt, She hardly asked for anything. The day we signed the papers in the lawyer's office, I looked at her bulging belly with mixed feelings. That baby could have been the fruit of our love, but now it became a testament to the breakdown of our marriage. Walking out of the lawyer's office, the New York sunlight was a little harsh. I took a deep breath, feeling like a heavy burden had been lifted. Doris stood beside me, wanting to say something. "Owen," she finally said, "I'm really sorry." I looked into her eyes, which were filled with remorse and pain. I suddenly realized that she was probably in more pain than I was. Not only had she lost her husband, she had to face her future life alone. "Take care of yourself," I said, "and child." Doris nods, tears welling up in her eyes. I turned to leave and didn't look back. At that moment, I knew our story was truly over. For the next few months, I buried myself in work. I applied for the company's overseas program and moved to London. New environment, new colleagues, everything was a new beginning. But late at night, I still think of Doris and the happy times we had. Sometimes I wonder if all this wouldn't have happened if I had spent more time with her. But I know that such assumptions are meaningless. During my third month in London, I received an email from Anna. She said she was coming to London on business and asked if I wanted to meet up. I hesitated and said yes. We met at a cafe on the banks of the Thames. Anna was even more radiant than she had been in the town, her blonde hair glistening in the sun. "You look good," Anna said. "Much better than I thought you would." I laughed. "Yeah? I feel like a wreck." Anna shook her head. "No, Owen. You are stronger than you think. You know, a lot of people who go through something like what you did might never get over it for the rest of their lives. But look at you. New job, new environment. You're trying to rebuild your life." I was silent for a moment, Anna's words touching me a little. Yeah, maybe I was indeed stronger than I thought. "Thank you, Anna," I said. "If it wasn't for you, I might have actually broken down." Anna laughed. "Don't be silly. That's all on you. I was just on the sidelines to say a few words." We talked for a long time about work, life, and future plans. Without realizing it, it was getting late. "Want to go for a drink?" Anna asked. I looked into her eyes and felt a sudden warmth. Perhaps it was time to give myself a chance. "Yeah," I said, "I know a nice bar nearby." And just like that, we walked together through the streets of London. Under the streetlight, Anna's side face looked especially soft. I don't know what the future holds, but at this moment, I feel as if there is hope in life again. A year later, I returned to New York. Not for work, but to attend the wedding of an old friend. At the wedding, I met Doris, whose baby had been born, a lovely little boy. "He looks like you too," Doris said, "with your eyes." I looked at that little life, and instead of the resentment I once felt, there was only a faint hint of regret and blessing. "I want you to be happy, Doris," I said sincerely. A glimmer of gratitude flashed in Doris' eyes. "You too, Owen. You deserve the best." Leaving the wedding site, I walked through the familiar streets of New York. The once painful memories seemed to have become a blur, replaced by the anticipation of the future. I pulled out my cell phone and sent a message to Anna. "New York is so beautiful in the fall. When are you coming to see it?" A short while later, Anna's reply came. "When I'm done with the case at hand. Maybe next month?" I smiled and put away my cell phone. Life is like that. When one door closes, there is always another one opening for you. There was a time when I thought I lost everything when I lost Doris, but now I realize that it was just an end and a new beginning at the same time. Walking through Central Park, I saw a young couple making a wish at the wishing pool. I stopped for a moment, then pulled out a coin and tossed it into the pool as well. My wish is simple. May everyone find happiness that is truly theirs, including Doris, including that innocent child, and including myself. As the sun sets, I take a deep breath and feel the rhythm of New York. This city has seen my marriage, my pain, and will see me reborn. I know that no matter what the future holds, I am ready for a new challenge. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.